Hey adapters, I'm Doug Parsons. I'm a partner at Simpatico Studios, where we live stream conversations about complex business and social challenges with professionals like yourself who are working on the
You're
same
listening
issues.
to
Our
Miles
shows are
Davis.
live streamed in
That's
front of
kind
a
of in my
global
head when
audience
I
of your
can't say.
professional peers on simpatico.tv. I'm building a new type of online community for professionals like yourself on the Climate Adaptation channel. If you're a regular listener of my America Adapts podcast, I think you'll find that we're taking our conversations about important problems, policies, and solutions to the next level here. And if you're interested in being a guest, we'd love to hear from you. And now join us for this latest episode. Hey adapters, welcome back. Today our guest is Alexei Levene. Alexei has a business development, sales, and strategy background in consumer products, business consulting, and sustainable technologies. He has lived in the UK, the United States, Poland, India, and France, contributing to Fortune 500 corporations and innovative startups. Alexei will talk about how the traditional approaches to moving water are detrimental to our planet. He explains how Desalinator is using a different approach to water supply that is decentralized, regenerative, ocean safe, and 100% solar powered. Alexei will share how Desalinator's game-changing approach can provide a sustainable water supply solution. Hey Alexei, welcome to the show.
Hey, Doug, great to be here. Thank you.
All right, I'm very excited about this technology that you have, and we were talking earlier. I'm in the desert, so much potential in many parts of the world. But let's maybe give some background of why you're doing even what you're doing, and so what have been some of the traditional approaches to supplying water to people?
Sure, Doug. Well, there's not one answer to that. I mean, I lived in India for around 6 years. And even within India, there's so many different ways that people get water. The traditional ways that you think, when you turn on the tap, sure, in some places, but actually most people get it with a truck coming once a week and delivering water, and it may or may not turn up. People buy bottled water, and then there's not necessarily a way of dealing with the plastics. So if you look around the world, it's a very different scenario. But what we can say is that it's one of the biggest issues that we're facing as a planet.
All right, so why is this going to be important, I guess, in the context of climate change too? The water supply is going to just go on this roller coaster, and so your product is hoping to, I guess, provide some stability to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the first thing to say is that the production of water today uses an incredible amount of fossil fuels. So you can imagine, for example, in the Middle East, if you have a desalination plant, you're literally burning diesel to create water from seawater. And, you've got trucks moving water around. They're burning fossil fuels. You've got water being transported in plastic. To make the plastic, you need water, something like 6 liters of water for every liter of water that you drink. So throughout the whole supply chain, water is being used and carbon is being created. So, if we look around the world today, there's 2 billion people that don't have reliable access to clean water, right? And the UN estimate is that by 2030, nearly half the world's population won't have reliable access to clean water. So water and energy and food are deeply intertwined. And what we do at Desalinator is focus on the energy and the water equation, making water using the photons of the sun.
All right, so let's dig into that, and I want to come back to like who are going to be some of the end users of this. But really, what is your product? How does it work?
Okay, yeah. So, well, we've developed a technology. We actually started this when I was living in India in my back garden, building our first product. And basically what we do is harvest solar energy in a much more effective way than you would traditionally. We capture electricity, but we also capture heat. And then in our system, which you can also see behind me, this is from a system we've been building in Dubai. We take that heat, we store it, we can run a system 24 hours a day just using solar energy, and we're boiling the water. And the way that we do it means that we don't need to use harmful chemicals, we don't need to use filters, and basically the energy is free for the lifespan of the system, so 20, 25 years. So that means that we can produce water really cheaply. Now, it's not for everywhere. this is a system that needs a lot of solar irradiation, and we need a water source as well. So that could be seawater, it could be brackish water. We have a project we're doing in India, where the water is very heavily contaminated with arsenic. So that's fine. Those are the kind of water types we can deal with. So we're not going to solve the water crisis on our own, but we feel that we can do our part.
All right. What about, is there just enough solar energy to do the work with the water, or do you? I mean, since you're putting up these solar arrays, is there an opportunity that you're actually generating electricity for other purposes, or do you kind of keep a closed loop there?
So we've actually built and designed and patented our own solar panels. So unlike traditional PV panels, which will only convert, give or take about 15% of the potential energy that hits them, and as those panels get hot, the efficiency goes down radically. In our panels, what we do is we take that 15%, but we also capture heat through them. So we get another 45% of energy through heat. So we're getting a combined efficiency from our panels of 60%. And what that means is that we can take that heat, we can store it, and we can use it within our system. And that's why we can run 24 hours a day from solar. So this isn't about taking an old system, like a membrane-based system, and plugging in solar. This is about thinking or using solar energy in a way that is optimal for the entire process of water production. And that's what we've come up with. So we've designed a bunch of products, but the one behind me, one module will deliver 250,000 liters of water per day. So that's really something that means we can provide a lot of water for people.
Wow. Okay. I was going to ask about scaling this and such. And so that sort of water, and I guess I don't completely know. So with that volume, what are you supplying? Is that a small city? Is that, a big city?
Not quite, not quite. So now we're producing very high quality water. So you can think of this as drinking water, but also we've got applications that we can use because we create ultra pure water, which we control the remineralization of. So actually there's some very specific business requirements that we can provide for. You might have a brewery, you might have a bottling facility, you might be manufacturing where you have a requirement for pure water. You might have a field hospital, for example. So there's a lot of different applications where we can create real business value. But as a team, we're primarily a mission-driven team. We want to build a scalable business and we want to create value with our partners, but we also want to bring quality, reliable, low-cost water to people who really need it. And very often that can be a life or death, or a situation where people have to move if they don't have a reliable source of water. And unfortunately, that's the direction our planet's heading. So we want to try and do a little bit of both, humanitarian projects and working with business people who really understand the impacts of climate change and who are exposed to the challenges of the water crisis around the world as well.
Okay, so this is some innovative technology. What were some of the challenges you had to overcome as you were developing it, or was it just kind of fell into place?
Oh no, there's it's
Okay,
been a
trial and
story.
error.
Yeah, no, it's been a story. Well, I mean, starting building a product in a garden in South India, coming to Europe, setting up here, we've had a whole journey. So it's not been an easy journey. And traditionally, sustainable technologies generally, and water in particular, is a very underfunded space. You can think that water is the most valuable commodity in our planet for all of us, right? And if you're in the desert and you don't have water, you know how valuable it is. But it's probably the least valued commodity that we have, or the most undervalued commodity that we have. So that means, to build the kind of systems we've got behind us takes investment, especially in the early days. And we've had to work extremely hard to get to the place that we're at today. And that's why it's very nourishing, to know that we can really make a difference in some of our biggest global crises like the water crisis and the global climate crisis, and do our bit. So that really keeps us going.
All right, and I imagine probably some of your clients or the places you want to work are coastal areas because you have access to that water. And they were doing desalination in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, and one of the problems was the water that they'd get it from was so shallow. The bay was shallow, and you had this issue of maybe extra desalination. Is that an issue that you have to deal with, or do you purposely only pick areas that you're not going to kind of contribute to that?
So traditional desalination is incredibly polluting. You use fossil fuels to push water through membranes. and you have to use all these really harmful chemicals.
Oh.
And what that means is that then your waste brine is really polluting. It's full of chemicals. And it's really one of the unsung stories that's happening. You can look all around the world where this has taken effect. So what we do in our system, we're basically boiling water using solar energy. We don't use any harmful chemicals in what we do. And if we're putting water back into the sea, we dilute it. It goes back into the sea pretty much at the same concentration levels that we take it in. But where we get really excited and where we're building for the future is where we take our water, we produce high quality drinking water, and we take our waste brine and evaporate it. And it turns out that our technology is perfect for this for two main reasons. One, we don't use harmful chemicals, so our waste brine is quite clean. And the second thing is that we can actually increase the concentration levels of our brine quite radically, more than double membrane-based technologies. And that means we do a lot of the heavy lifting for an evaporator. So just imagine, Doug, you can take water from the sea, you can use solar energy, you can provide drinking water for people, and at the other end, you can have commodities like salt and gypsum and magnesium that you can go and sell or dispose of in a safe way. That's really exciting for us to achieve that full circularity, and that's what we're building towards.
All right, I didn't realize there was so much, I guess, pollutants involved with desalination. I did think it was just like you're boiling, but what's the technology and everything, the scale for boiling? I didn't realize it was such a polluting industry, so that's great. You mentioned this, and I think, again, this is going to be probably the clients that you work with, but even in your promotion materials, it talks about you're helping communities become more resilient. And people talk about resilience in the face of climate change. Could you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. I mean, I said, water is probably the biggest resource issue we're facing as a planet into the next couple of decades. I think that I'd look at our project that we're doing in India. We're working in a tribal area. It's just on the border with Bangladesh. And this place, they have seawater, they're on a delta, they have brackish water, they also have arsenic in the water. Now, the reality today is that when a cyclone comes along and it makes life incredibly difficult, COVID happens, what do you do with the water? Well, today they have to truck it in. And that means that a good chunk of their disposable income is spent on water. Now, if you can provide a safe, reliable, quality, low-cost source of water, as we're doing, where we're going to provide water, it's going to go live in around April, May next year, 2021, for the town of 4,000 people. You give a base for so many things. You give a base for life, actually, because at some point people have to leave. So we're really excited about that. And what we did really early on is recognize that it's never only about technology. We actually worked with our partners. We worked with a major global NGO, and we work with the women in the local community, and together with them actually design the distribution process for the water. So water in that sense is really about a platform for life. It's a platform for community. It's a way that people can create income, and it's a way that they can then use water for crops, for food. They don't have the issues around energy. So in that sense, resilience starts, I would say, with water. No water, no community, definitely no resilience.
All right, we talked right at the beginning about traditional sources of water supply, and there's such momentum in how, and I'm even thinking of developed countries of how they get water, and how you compete in the economics. So even though your technology might be there, it's convincing people that this is better for these other reasons, and is at a price that you're going to be able to get more people interested in.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, Doug. Look, the reality is that water and renewable technologies take time, take money to get them to the level of being fully productized and have an efficient supply chain in place. And that means investment at early stage. And that's honestly in the world today is quite minimal. Hopefully that's changing. But, we've been pushing through. And the reality is the system that you see behind me, which is fully solar powered, it'll run 100% from solar power using our bespoke panels that we've created, will produce water for less than $1 per 1,000 liters if you measure the capital cost and the operational cost over its lifespan. So traditional systems, which will deal with the more complex water types, which is what we do, you're basically buying operational expenditure. You have to pay for your energy, you have to pay for your membranes, you need your chemicals. With us, you get free energy for 20, 25 years. You don't have harmful chemicals that you use. You don't need membranes, you don't need filters. So I think the challenge for us is not about being able to produce water cheaply. We do that. The part of the challenge is about gaining the financing that we can finance our systems with over time. And we have a path to make that happen, but it's not easy, Doug, honestly speaking, and we're doing our best to try and make that happen. The best way to do that initially is to work with the innovators and work with the people who really feel the pain of water and who want a solution that's fully sustainable.
Well, I imagine and I'm sure Europe is just doing this so much better, but we're hearing more of states setting renewable energy targets, or they want to start capping like carbon and such. And I guess that's just a great pitch for your product. Is like, here's a big energy consumer, and this is a way that you're going to meet it, and you're going to supply water in the meantime. So I guess for you, just even tracking the policies of saying, oh, look, California wants to go carbon neutral by 2040. We are going to be part of that solution. I guess that comes up quite a bit.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people, I can talk about doing projects in rural India, but equally, if you go to Southern California, really there is very little water sources. And you can look at some of the large plants that are even desalinating. These are billion-dollar facilities, and they're producing water extremely expensively, and they're very polluting. So something's got to give, right? There's a paradigm shift underway that we're going to hit 4 degrees C, most likely this century. And that means that we need to get ahead of the curve. So, I think whether it's California, whether it's Chile, the Caribbean, even the Middle East, South Asia, all of these places are facing the same challenge with local nuance. And, we just want to be a part of the solution. We want to work with the people who are at the vanguard, the front end of that, and to try and create this conscious shift that says, well, hang on a minute, you're taking water from the sea and you're using the photons of the sun, and you can make water more cheaply than traditional ways of doing it. It is about a conscious shift. It's about waking people up to what's possible and then having them demand that, well, why can't we do that as well? So that's part of the journey, Doug.
Are you having conversations with like organizations like the World Bank and such? Because they're always interested in supplying public health and energy to developing countries, and if your product is there to like ultimately be sort of a low cost, low maintenance way for them to get clean water, that is a way of doing some of the international aid that I guess they'd be interested in. Is that like a client that you're dealing with?
Yeah, I would see World Bank as a key partner for us in the future. In the early days, we really have to drive this with innovators. We're just going live with our first large scale plant right now in Dubai with the Dubai government, and we have our second plant which is going live in India, which is funded by one of the largest beverage companies in the world, and we have a pipeline we're building from there. The conversations with people like World Bank and Asian Development Bank, these kind of organizations, definitely these are partners for the future. But they really start to kick in when we can deliver hundreds, if not thousands of our units. So we've got a little ways to go with that, Doug. But of course, these are the kind of people we want to be working with in the future.
I guess the project in Dubai, a lot of people will be watching that and just, huge demand for what you're doing if you successfully scaling it up. And so, yeah, I guess next year will be a big year for you.
Yeah, we're getting towards Christmas. We're announcing both of these projects in the next couple of months. We're closing out our Series A funding round. We just went live with our new website, so it's all happening. So hopefully, towards the end of this year and into next year, we'll really start to make a splash. And it's not just about getting more products on the ground and more installations. It's also about waking people up that the value of creating water sustainably is significant. If we can do that as a planet, we can really make a difference to the climate crisis, as well as providing resilience and quality of life for people all over the world, rich or poor. And that's what really gets us out of bed in the morning.
So longer term, if all things kind of go according to plan, I think I saw this on your website, the residential markets are like, I could put this to my house, right? Is that sort of a goal?
Well, actually, the first product we developed is a household product. So a single panel unit, it'll give you 20 liters of water a day. We got really big on prepper forums. Preppers who are thinking the world's
Oh,
going to
right,
end
right,
and want
right.
to prep for it. Yeah, we're big on that. So yeah, Doug, just bear with us a little bit of time. We've got so much to do. We're a small team, but we'll be selling that product in the next couple of years or so. It's a beautiful product, and we'll definitely have one for your home over there in Arizona.
The American market will be very good for your prepper clientele.
Absolutely.
I got your first client. My brother-in-law will be your first customer. He's been waiting for things to just hit the fan for decades now. So your water supply will be perfect for him.
I think the American political situation has done a lot for the prepper market.
Oh, brother. Well, all right. So I guess you sort of explained kind of what's next, but literally what's next? Is it just a refinement of the product and you've got this case study that you're working with in Dubai, but what are you doing for the next 6 months?
So next, till the end of the year, we're going live with these first couple of projects. We're closing out our Series A. We're going to be doing some awareness and campaigning. If we shoot forward to middle of next year, it's all about execution, heads down. We've got some new projects coming. And we're having conversations with people that range from, Fiji to the Caribbean, to California. We're talking with universities in America. We're talking with governments in the Middle East. So, it's really, there's a sense of kind of creating momentum. And then it's about identifying the innovators, the people who actually want to make this happen and who are feeling the pain. So we'll see a little bit how it goes, Doug, over the next year. But really what we want to do is just drive this forward, raise people's consciousness about the water crisis, and make sure that we really kind of create some thought leadership in the space of sustainable water purification. At the moment, that I would say that barely exists. And we want to make this a space that really is a sustainable area, and where it's not about just being sustainable, where we actually create a lot of value for people and we can produce water more cheaply, locally, and not having necessarily these big central grids powered by fossil fuels. That's what we want to end.
I have a comment here from Mike. I think it's a comment, not a question. And he's basically saying, really, all you need is a desalinator and a use solar on your house, and you're good to go. And I guess you're saying at that once, at some stage, that's what it will be like.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would just add, Mike, that means you solve your energy challenge, you solve your water challenge. If you had a little vertical farm in there as well, you can be food independent. So, that absolutely. The food, energy, water nexus is the crux of our global resource challenges. Normally, you have to trade them off against each other. You want to grow crops for biofuels, you need water for that. And that's, crops that would otherwise be food. So there's always a trade-off in these things. For Desalinator, we're all about energy and water and solving that piece. But actually, plenty of organizations are coming to us, particularly post-COVID, where they want food security in countries like the UAE, for example, and saying, well, we need a water supply and we want to have a sustainable water supply. So yeah, it's exactly about solving that nexus.
I think the whole pitch of being decentralized is going to be so appealing, and not necessarily even at the residential level, even though I'm sure there'll be customers there. But you think of extreme weather events, wildfires, and after hurricanes, and instead of just these centralized water supplies, even the cities are investing in what your product is offering is going to be, very useful because they want people to get their water back up really quickly. So.
Absolutely. That's unfortunately with climate change, we're going to see an increase of that. And it tends to be in places where there's already water stress, or places that feel the effects of climate change as well, whether it's forest fires, whether it's extreme weather events. If you look at islands, the sea level's rising due to climate change, the aquifers get polluted with salt water. What do you do? So again, we're not going to be a solution for everywhere, but there's plenty of places around the world where really it'll make the difference between people staying or people leaving. And I think that's really what gets us out of bed in the morning, is that transformative potential of what we do.
Well, this is very exciting. We've hit the end of our episode. This has been fantastic. I get to interview people like you and hearing all this cool technology that's happening. And so definitely wish you well. We want you to succeed in what you're doing because it's going to be very important. I want to take you into just chatting before I let you go, but thank you so much and good luck with what you're doing.
Thank you very much, Doug. I really appreciate it, and appreciate the Simpatico team helping us and getting this message out there. So thank you all.
Oh, for sure. And hold on, we'll be right back.